Afternoon, afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the, well, it's 1 minute delay. It wasn't actually that long. I thought it was going to be a bit more. I'm exporting a YouTube video on my Swiss yen trade, a trade view, kind of like I've stolen the idea from Trader Nick. So I was just doing that. It's just finished. Hope everybody's well. Paul, Rohan, hope you are all well. Ismail, good to see you, buddy. A new RTFX member. Kaizen and Sahil, how you doing, guys? Hope you are all well. Welcome to the Monday stream. The Monday $50 competition. Fadil, how you doing, mate? So in today's competition, we're going to be doing gold. I'll go into gold at the end of my watch list. Mohammed, I hope the winner, this winner has PayPal, by the way. Mohammed won last week. I know it's not his fault, but he didn't have PayPal. I tried Skrill. Skrill didn't work, so now I've got to do like a bank transfer for $50. Anyway, it's not his fault. So hopefully you guys have PayPal. Okay, let's get into the market, shall we? And I actually thought this morning when I got up that there wasn't going to be much because of the extensions we've had, which normally take some time to digest. But actually, there's a few things that I kind of like, to be honest. So we'll start with the SPX. Now, for me, it's still risk on. I wouldn't be looking at trying to find a peak in this and call it to fall down. So for me, we're obviously uptrending. The yen is still relatively weak. I know it had some strength on Friday, but looking for potential pullbacks in that yen to continue that risk on nature, for me, just makes sense. You know, there's not really much to analyze with this SPX. We could. The only issue here is because we're up at all-time highs and we've come from a decent move, we could get a reaction, okay? We've got a decent hammer bar here, which technically is a bit of a bearish sign on a little bit of volume coming in. We have kind of extended on this 4 hour. So could we get a slight move or corrective before continuation? Yeah, of course we could. You know, we could. Maybe we're getting to a better loss of momentum for a pullback to continue. However, the SPX kind of acts a wee bit differently, I would say, from traditional Forex currency pairs, where if it's got momentum and investors are confident, this can really move. And again, we take it from a larger term perspective or a longer term perspective. It doesn't really look like it needs to, you know, on that daily. So for me, it's still certainly risk on. Maybe watch those smaller time frames for a pullback, but maybe it's already happened, you know. You know, a good confirmation here could be a break above B wave. We consider this an ABC. See, we've got a reaction here on this 1 hour chart. But if we get a break and close, if we're considering this a complex corrective here, ABC, or an AB shallow C, technically, a break and close above this area would be a good sign for continuation to the upside in the indexes. So, you know, I think it's been a nice pullback and probably a needed pullback, because during these times here, really, and obviously here, this is the real place where we've got some proper momentum. You know, if we got that really nice moves in the currency pairs. And I hope that continues. You know, I hope that continues, because that's where people like me, and I'm sure a lot of you, make your money, right? Because as a breakout trader or pullback trader, whatever you are, you need momentum, you need follow through to make money. And we've kind of got that over the last wee while. So I hope that continues. Dollar. So yeah, I would say if you're looking intraday for your confirmation, look for a break of B wave and a break and close above there. May not be a bad sign. Dollar. The dollar today. The dollar was interesting. I don't know how. Keith, how you doing? Rohit, hope you're all well. I don't know if any of you were in the market on Friday. Now I'm obviously doing some work with A1, or independent analysis with A1. And I was looking at the Forex chat room in that particular channel on Friday. And as soon as the news came out, if we look at these on smaller time frames, as soon as the news came out, the dollar had a decent push to the upside, okay? And everybody in there, not everybody, that's a bad word to say, a few people in there, I think more the inexperienced traders, were like, oh, let's buy the dollar, let's buy the dollar, buy the dollar. This is why I always say, wait for that confirmation. Wait for the market to digest the moves before you make the decision. Because a lot of the times, how many times, I don't know how many times I got caught in these kind of moves thinking, oh shit, I'm going to buy the dollar now. Or maybe I'm in a dollar position short and thinking, oh God, I'm going to hit my stop loss. I'm going to take it out now because this news is going to push this dollar all the way up here. And then what happens? It comes back down and continues with that trend. So this is why I always think maybe getting out the market, maybe going away from the charts from an hour will help your trading. Because if we look at the 4 hour now, I know we're getting a slight reaction here, okay? I'm not saying the dollar can't go up. We don't know, again, I keep saying it. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. However, there's a potential, firstly, for me, a breakout trade here in the dollar. If we get something like this, cup with handle, that breakout will be underneath those moving averages. Can you see that well? It'll be underneath those moving averages. There you go, it's a bit better. So a breakout to the downside here, on a potential cup with handle or cup with handle within a cup with handle, which is my favorite type of breakout, would be pretty nice for me. So the trend is still, you have to be, or for me, you have to be a dollar bear at the moment. Until you break out of this area now, this downtrending anchor on this 4 hour, you've got to think about continuation to the downside. So if you're a pullback trader, looking for dollar shorts into that pullback, i.e. you get a catalyst like this, still for me makes sense. You know, I know we're getting to this support zone on this daily chart. I know we're here, okay? So you can get buyers coming in if it's continuation, pullback continuation. But if we look and digest it a little bit more, the bias has got to be potential shorts. So I was looking at the DXY for a potential trade on that 4 hour, but also if we look at this on the 1 hour or 30 minute, you're getting your cup with handle, a nice little corrective pattern. And notice this push up in the dollar has immediately been rejected. We've got our train tracks or our bearish 180 here. Okay, see there? Bearish 180. But not only that bearish 180, again, not saying this is going to happen, but it's coming on higher volume. So that's what you want to see. You always want to see your catalyst candle come in on higher volume, because for me, volume is such a key indicator. Because as retail traders, we could put every retail trader in the world and click buy or sell. It ain't going to move the market, you know. And this volume is, for me, your best way to figure out where the institution's going. And so yeah, I'll be looking at potential dollar shorts if you get a break underneath this area as a potential breakout in the 4 hour and possible breakout retest on these smaller time frames. That is my bias. Not going to say I'm going to be right, but that is my personal bias for the dollar. And the reason, again, the reason why I like it, we think about the Swiss yen, is it's got potential to really move to the downside if it does break. It's in that position where if we break below this daily support, if we break below this 4 hour support, it could really move and the dollar could really wobble. So that's why I like it. But waiting for that confirmation. Swiss yen, the Swiss yen love affair is over. I got 8% on this trade. That's the video that I've just done on that trade review. So our stop was here. Got taken out on this section. Perfectly happy with that. I think on the runner was 3R. Our first trade, on my first trade, I got 2R on 50%. So technically that's 1R for a 4R trade. It was actually a little bit more than that. But with the swap and with the commission, it's basically bang on about 8%. So even though I wanted 10%, it's still a great trade. You know, you can see a potential just by looking at price action, a possible loss of momentum here. And maybe you get a harder reset for continuation to the upside. So if we get here and we get a setup roughly around here, I would take that again. Just because of where it is on the higher time frames, it still massively makes sense. Still massively makes sense. So Swiss yen, I mean, we've had that impulse. You could be going into corrective, but a great trade nonetheless. You could actually potentially look for a short-term opportunity here. But, I mean, I personally wouldn't. Got the 200 below, still got this areas. This is the difficult thing with counter-trend trade, is you've got a lot of barriers to those counter-trend trades. So Swiss yen looks good, but just let it kind of correct a wee bit. So dollar, German 30. The German 30 is nice. I like where this is. Again, we look at our daily confluence. Looks quite similar to the Swiss yen, okay, where we're coming out of this potential corrective channel. Notice how, if I zoom in here, look at this bar here. On this 200, on this support zone, now impulse to the upside. You've had that impulse broken out of this descending trend line, retested that descending trend line, another slight hammer bar here. Here, 200 is starting to potentially curl up. So the daily confluence is good. Look at the weekly. Morning star. Simple. Okay? Another good thing from this corrective. So another trade that could potentially move. I'm looking at it on these smaller time frames where we've got our head and shoulders here at B wave. If you consider this A, B, C. So A, B, C. Push up. Tag that area again. Slight fake out here on London Open. But for me, a breakout retest on this index looks really nice. We look at the 4 hour, again, breaking out of this structure. We're going with that trend. Everything for me likes this trade, but it's not set up yet. So everything for me likes this trade, and it's the same with the UK 100. Everything about me likes this trade and wants to get in on it. I was looking at this morning on the 4 hour chart for a potential breakout, but it just wasn't enough yet. You know, we had our cut with handle, but at this stage, it wasn't enough for a potential breakout. So I'm looking now, because it has gone, for a breakout retest and move to the upside. So again, we look at these higher time frames. Look at this. Head and shoulders on the daily. Nice impulse, slight corrective, breaking out of that impulse. Just looks really nice. It just looks really nice. So yeah, 4 hour breakout retest would be nice for me on the UK 100 to move to the upside. Pound CAD and Kiwi Yen. Pound CAD, Kiwi Yen, potential counter trade breakout on the 4 hour. Okay, I'll look at that. I've only got two more. I've got EUROCAD and EURUSD to look at. But those indexes I do like. Certainly this German 30. You know, and I love the breakout retest. Obviously, I can't take the breakout. It does cross my mind saying, Ryan, just take the breakout. You get a lot of them right, but I can't because I know in the long term it ain't going to be as profitable as waiting for the breakout retest. EuroCAD. Now EuroCAD is a counter trend trade, obviously coming from this larger downtrend, but from this section here, it looks good. Okay, firstly, we need our high. If we're getting counter trend trade, we need our higher time frame confluence because look where we come from, right? But we've got this bar here, this particular bar, which is giving us an in, okay? Giving us an in, a nice hammer bar. Sellers try to push it down. Again, I don't think it's ready. On a little bit of volume, saying there's maybe a potential for this to move to the upside. So we've got our cup with handle here. Now within this cup with handle, look what we've got at this section. Right, it's not a rising 3, but it's a rising 5. And not only that, we've got volume on this initial bar, and we've got volume on this end bar. So this bullish engulfer, lower volume in between, right? That's perfect. It's exactly what we want to see. Not only that, we've got a hammer bar as well. So two bullish signs here, including that rising 5. Remember the rising pattern, rising 3, 4, 5, is an igniting pattern. It's supposed to ignite moves. Now, this is great. What it's doing now is great. If we get another reload and some bullish pressure here, catching up to this 20, for me, I'd be happy taking that breakout to the upside because I think we'd get 1-to-1 out of it. Again, we've got that higher time frame confluence, so I think we'd get 1-to-1 out of it. And if it does decide to go a little bit more, then, you know, that's the benefits of counter trend trading. But with that, you have to have that reason to get in, and we've got that there. So if it fails, I don't take it. You know, path of least resistance is to the downside, but something I'm certainly watching. And finally, EURUSD. EURUSD is something, again, that I want to get. We could be getting a head and shoulders or cup with handle here on the 4 hour chart. The thing I like about it is if we get this, it's not going to be a trade for today, maybe during midweek. The breakout will be above that 400 on that 20. So you've kind of got a triple whammy there for a breakout trade. It's a key area, the EURUSD. Okay, path of least resistance is to the downside. But sellers aren't taking control at the moment. At the moment, it could break out to the downside. Of course it could. But if we get a break above here, it may change that sentiment a little bit. It's a key area for trend continuation. which is why I like a potential breakout to the upside. So I'm waiting here for another little reload for a long on that Euro USD. Again, another trade that I like, that I wouldn't mind taking. So Euro USD, I like. So today I'm watching the Dixie, DXY, the German 30, the 225. Euro CAD could potentially be for today, and Euro USD for midweek. And we're out of Swiss yen. Okay, so let's look at actually, let's do gold first. So we'll get our competition in for gold this week. The reason why I chose gold is because I think it's a little bit of a mess. It's been so hard to predict, so I think it kind of opens up a little bit. So Friday competition is in gold. I'll do a little bit of my personal analysis on it, is that I think it's long. You know, we've seen this price action, but obviously was a little bit of a mess. Slight fake out to the upside, taking stops out on lower time frames, and now we're pushing through. So considering where the dollar is, I think gold is bullish. Do I think we're going to get up to this area? What days are they? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Yeah, I do. So I'm going to go, this is my, I think we're going to get up to this area. I'm going to go 1830 for gold on Friday. Do I think it can go either way? Absolutely. But I'll go 1830. So whatever you guys think, put it into the chat. I just have a feeling we've got kind of head and shoulders here on the daily. Breakout retest. We've broken above the highs of this evening star, which is obviously a good sign. But I just have a feeling that it's going to be bullish. I just have a feeling. Certainly, I think the best indicator for that is where the DXY is. So yeah, I would predict gold longs. But Rohan doesn't. 1785. So you think it's going to be roughly around the same? Okay, yeah. So get your entries into chat, and I'll put them all on the list for the Friday competition. Okay, let's have a look at your pairs. So if you want me to look at anything, put it in the chat, and I'll have a look at it. Pound CAD is the first one. Pound CAD is starting to look better for downside movement. I still think this area is key. I do think this area is still key. But this looks not too bad. It's kind of, I mean, you're breaking out of this corrective structure, right? You had the retest there on the 4 hour, probably retest on the smaller time frames. Consolidating, again, when I talk about breakouts from channel, this is my favorite type of breakout from channel. If you get an uptrending market and you break out of this, when you consolidate a little bit and then move to the upside, I think is more powerful. I've seen it kind of time and time again. So Hale, New Zealand Swiss, pound Swiss, and Aussie dollar. Okay. So yeah, I like this to the downside. It just needs to either break and close under here, but I would consider this to be quite key on pound CAD. You could say it's getting to the point that 20 period is caught up and looks ready to move to the downside. So yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind it. I would wait for added confirmation. If you're looking at smaller time frames, you know, you've got to be really looking for a real confirmation that this wants to break, and this is here. Or maybe a break and close underneath that underneath that channel. I think it's nice. I think the chart's nice. But just wait for that confirmation, I would say. On pound CAD. Kaizen, Kiwi Yen, potential counter trend. Kiwi Yen, New Zealand JPY. Yeah? Yeah? You know, considering where we've come from, I would rather sell it right now, even though I wouldn't sell it. I'm saying your name right, Kaizen? Even though I wouldn't sell it, I agree with that. You know, you could be into this complex corrective. As I said, even though the 20 period is caught up on the daily, on the 4 hour, this is still massively extended. You know, you could be getting into a potential maybe complex corrective continuation to the downside or upside. But yeah, there was your possible indication. Maybe a break underneath this area, considering you still got the 200 there, would be good. But just watch for basically a trap to the downside where you could get bam, fake out and continuation. That's what I always worry about, because I think, so Hale, maybe it was you that asked me about oil last week. So if we go back to oil, and it was at this stage here where you're saying, look at potential counter trend shorts in oil. And this is what can sometimes happen. Right? You get faked out, boom, to the upside, you know, because the path of least resistance is to the upside. The trend is your friend. So with New Zealand yen, although, yeah, it looks decent to the downside now. I mean, it's moving. It is moving. Just watch for that potential fake. So if you're in it here, it would make sense. Okay, this is actually a decent entry there. If you're in it there, makes sense. If you're in it there, it could make sense as well. Just a few barriers. So yeah, I agree, Kaizen. I agree with your bias. I think it needs a corrective. I think the yen's been massively weak, and that obviously can't continue. So yeah, it would make sense. It would make sense. New Zealand Swiss. I presume that's exactly the same. New Zealand Swiss. Ina, good morning. Great. I appreciate that, Ina. If you can like the video, guys, it helps me out, helps me grow the channel to that big 1,000 number. I remember when I was on 7. I think, Paul, you are one of the, if you're still here, Paul was one of the very first ones. Rohan was one of the very first ones. So if you can like that, got 23 watching, and get a few likes, that would really help me out. Sorry, New Zealand Swiss. Yeah, Sahel, New Zealand Swiss is the same. But again, just be wary of that complex. I know I talk about it all the time, but it happens all the time. You know, it happens all the time. Complex corrective continuation. But I do think they're due for pullbacks. You know, I definitely do think they're due for pullbacks. Slight fake out to the upside there. Look, this is another good lesson. Look at this. Climactic moves, if you see that, and not only that, you're getting higher volume on these climactics at the end of the climactic move. So this is one of the bases of my fake out trade, which I haven't seen in bloody weeks, because with the fake outs, you need horrible market conditions like choppy markets in order to find those. We haven't had those in the last couple of weeks. But this is the kind of thing I like to look for, is these kind of climactic moves, higher volume coming in here, sellers taking control, right? It's a buyer's trap. So yeah, I don't mind that, potentially down to here. But again, it's counter trend, you know, it is counter trend. In terms of my kind of strategy, it's corrected decently from this impulse, okay? So you've had a decent 4-hour bar here, although you've had another rejection. If it comes down to the 50, the pairs like that 50. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I wouldn't take it, but it makes sense. Pound Swiss and Aussie dollar. Pound Swiss and Aussie dollar. Okay, I'll do Pound Swiss and Aussie dollar. And then I'll be off for my lunch. Pound Swiss and Aussie dollar. Pound Swiss. Pound Swiss on this daily is a mess. You know, it's a mess. Look at that. It's hard to get a real kind of feeling of where this market is going. If you're a range trader, buy it here, sell it here, buy it here, sell it here, buy it here. But again, going long, you've now got these barriers as well. And it looks more short than it does long, which is kind of ironic considering you'd expect that Swiss to come off a wee bit. 4-hour outside bullish engulfer on open. At the moment, this is still a pullback from this initial trend to the downside. My bias at the moment would be look at this area for potential catalyst to go short. One of the things is you got to let the market give you a reason to go short. So even though we're in a pullback, right, similar to the DXY, let the market tell you that pullback is complete. If you go to your fib, that 40-60 box, and you get your hammer or engulfer, that's the market telling you, or evening star, whatever it is, or topping pattern with a bit of volume coming in. That's the market telling you that maybe it wants to continue to the downside. You know, that's why we use volume. So if you have impulse, corrective impulse, you're looking for volume roughly around here and a reason to enter, and potentially a resistance zone. Again, triple whammy to add confidence to your trade. And you continue to do that. You do that 1,000 times. You'll make more money than you lose, certainly if you're going with that trend. So adding maybe something like that to your strategy makes sense. Okay, finally, Aussie dollar. Ash, afternoon, Ash. Hope you're doing well. Like the channel. I appreciate that, Rohit. Yeah, you can like the channel. It is much appreciated. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, I would say, wait for a B wave break. Right? I would be looking more at longs. We could get a reaction down here. Yep. But for continuation, I'd rather be looking at buying opportunities than selling opportunities. And the buying opportunity comes at this B wave break. That is my opinion on Aussie dollar. The SPX is pushing up. You'd expect that to push that Aussie up. You'd expect post-COVID that dollar it looks weak. It doesn't mean it has to stay weak, but it looks weak. So I would look for breaks and close above that B wave for continuation. And there was a decent setup. I was looking at this down here. Again, very simple patterns. Head and shoulders. If it gave me this, maybe not as messy as this, but give me this here, then that would have been a perfect trade to move to the upside. Because also, if you look where it is, again, simple moving averages. If we had that accumulation here, your breakout would be above that 200, above that 20, with that 20 curling up. There was a decent sign. Look, and also, here you go. There's a decent sign here. Nice hammer rejecting these moving averages on high volume. And look what happened to that. Boom. Off you go. Correct back to the 20. Correct back to the 20. We're just in that corrective phase. Until we're not. Until it completely fails, you've got to be looking at Aussie dollar longs. You know? DXY shooting up. Oh no, am I going to eat my hat? DXY shooting up. Dollar. Oh yeah, well maybe I eat my hat on that one, Kaizen. Dollar is shooting up. However, it's still not broken this area. And also, this 4 hour, it's only 30 minutes into it, right? Is that right? Or an hour and a half into it? So wait for that 4 hour closure. You know, the 4 hour chart is so powerful, man. It's so powerful. So wait for that 4 hour closure. If you get it, I would still recommend a break and close above these highs for potential dollar longs. Until that point in time, my bias is still to the downside. It still has to be. You know, it still has to be. But it does look bullish, right? It does look bullish. So yeah. All right, guys, I appreciate you being here. Remember, like the video. Come on, let's get 15 likes. 15 likes for a Monday for the $50 competition. Remember to trade safe. It is a Monday, not massive fundamental drivers. So yeah, keep at your strategy. Think of one thing this week you can improve on. Keep doing that, and hey, one day you'll be funded. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I will see you on Wednesday. Trade safe. Peace.